Good evening. Yvie here for a Wednesday night session of Femmes and Folktales. Hey Oliver. Thanks for being here. I'm Yvie Johnson, illustrator and writer from Denbigh, North Wales, using Adobe Fresco. And on a Wednesday, it's the Folktale sessions that we're working in. Let me just turn my screen up. So, how are you doing, Oliver? I've been doing a bit of homework on this, trying to get my trees developed, trying to figure out how I want the background to look, and it's made me realise perhaps my turnips take up too much space. Possibly. So I've got a new fence in the background. If I just turn off this ratio thing. Got a new fence line in the background and trying to bring in the embankment on the side where the trees are growing. Haven't quite figured out how my left hand side works just yet, but that's what I'm going to work on today. So if I did change the size of the turnips, just turn this one back up. Select both of them. How would be best? Let me get my ratio back up. Helps me organize myself. So reselect these two turnips. I don't want them to go further to the right. Perhaps I need like an equal distance from the edge. Both of them. I often tend to draw my images with a lot of with not a lot of space around the edge, so that when it comes to trimming, I'm like, I'm trimming away things that I want to keep. I bring them up as well. Well, there you go. I've got both their eyes land on a third. Their mouths land on a third. Okay, let's do that. Oh, hey Jane. You're about to eat your dinner. No worries. Oops. You chomp away. Hope it's something tasty. Bon app, as Antoine would say. Right, so I've made them smaller, which means my background, just turn these two layers down again. Just need to shift my background over a little bit. Right, so I've got a fence line here. can now move over to the right. Catch that space in the middle. And embankment type edge as well. Should probably lower that. Maybe lower. Do I lower it? So on the left side, I can make it look like. I should put a fence on two different legs. And empty. Right. That's my embankment. Some sort of here. Oh, it doesn't quite work. Hang on, let me figure this out. This tree's lower. So there's my horizon. That is my horizon. Top of this curve. Get some sort of broken, rickety fencing here. Broken because they've broken through it. That's the look I'm going for. Redo this part. I could probably do something more like it's going to be covered with the trees, with the bushes anyway, but and then I've got obviously tree lines at the back. Turn up all of these rear bits. The fences could be lit up by the moonlight. And then I've got trees and hedging which can be like silhouetted. Oh, right, getting there. Okay, let's work from that. I'm going to create a rickety fence line. I wonder, I could probably do the rickety fence line with some, it's far too big. That's gonna work. have a think about that. The other brush. That one might work better for the sticky sticks of the fence with so that one's the oil deluxe with the wet charcoal as moonlight. Overlay. No. Try again, try again. Find another brush. Maybe I'm using the wrong colour. Could work. Hey Arif, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. I'm trying to figure out how to draw a fence line here. A rickety old fence line. Which brushes to use. I'm okay, thank you. Oh, cozy. Surrounded by cushions. It's my setup. Got a blanket on me. So I think these would probably need to be straighter. Like that. Let's get all these on the same layer, shall I? Oh, I'm in the right brush already. So if I just did all of these, this type of, as if the light's glinting off it. How would that work? Well, you can probably see it. Maybe it could be bigger. That works all right. So this brush is the charcoal pencil. Okay. Let's get the rest of this fence line in. Ew, wrong layer. Give it the look of upwards. You know what happens when you move? Start to change the shape of pixel brushes. They do start to go a little bit blurry, pixelated. I'm going to start that again. How many horizontal lines would there be? Two is fine. Nothing like a really spooky fence line, is there? Those it almost looks like railings. Could be railings. Those again. Okay. do we want this flashing with the arm? Might help it to stand out actually. I got that line down. And then at some point it just sort of collapses, so there's going to be a little broken fencing. Okay. I'm thinking it as I draw. You might hear my brain cogs whirring. Do you want to move this section up a bit? And then take off a little bit of the bottom. Okay, left one. Bull. Get rid of these layers I don't need. That was the drawing. Right, I'll keep that because I'm not sure if I want to draw fence line in the middle just yet. I do want to get this edging of like trail or a road. Country road edging. I was meant to be doing the trees. I'll sort out this edging first. Right, so they're my fence lines. So, a drawing brush. Roads have a side to them. They have like, you know, where the like the cobbledy road meets an embankment. It's just messy. There's no like definitive line to it, and that's what I'm trying to sort of see in my brain. I just sort of draw some cobble stone bits and then some grassy things. Sure, that will give the idea. Jane's back. She's scoffed a dinner. I need lots of these sort of cobbledy bits, don't I? Makes these turnips look huge. I mean, they are walking turnips after all. I've also that there, so I'm not going to see much of the edging actually. I focus more on where they're spaced. Oh. Okay, the left side. And hey, Ma. Good evening. Just trying to bring this road to life. Make it look like it's has a direction. And some, you know, some sort of you can see what type of road it is. It's an unkempt road. this was like the edging of the embankment. And sort of merge it in with the tree somehow. Perhaps I could get some mushrooms just growing out that side there. I wouldn't see any on the other side. Okay, so I've got a bit more of an idea of where my scene is moving to. I'm going to head back to these trees. I've been working on the tree on the left, giving it some bark and a bit of a glow as an idea, and I'm going to do the same on the other two now. First of all, let's fill it all in with the right colour. The base colour is like a grey. I'm going to tidy this up so I've got my colour in. Spooky trees. You guys ever been spooked by trees? I used to have to, I didn't have to, but I used to cycle home from work about 4 AM in the morning. Work finished at 3, so it was about between 3 and 4 I was cycling home from work. And I'd have to cycle through an area that was actually bombed during World War II. They lit up all of the hills so that it looked like Liverpool to confuse the bombers. So there's all these strange divots and holes all over the landscape. and it was also by a load of forests. And the whole area just has a very creepy feeling to it. And the road that used to take me home was very windy. It was like the route to the mine. And there was just like one section of road where I would pedal as fast as I could. And even though it was uphill, part of it, I just needed to get out of there quickly because I just didn't. It was so creepy. So yeah, I wonder if that's held some remnants of some awful past. Yeah, it was spooky, Jane. Jane's been spooked in Newstead Abbey with the stories of the White Lady. Yeah, it's like I had a feeling there was some sort of White Lady there as well, but I also felt it was like some sort of creature, like a dragon. Don't know what that was. Where is Newstead Abbey? Is that Nottinghamshire way? Yeah, so Nottinghamshire, near where you grew up. And you almost got married there. You would have been the White Lady. I haven't quite got a story yet for these turnips. I know on Wade's Discord he said to write a one-liner about not about turnips, a one-liner about something spooky. And I wanted to use the turnips as like the thing. I haven't actually got a story for them yet. I mean, maybe it doesn't have to be so spooky. Maybe it could be something more like, you know how we grew up with fairy tales. Type of fairy tale, a one-line horror. That's it, Oliver. I was actually watching a webinar last night, a lecture on fairy tales. It's absolutely fascinating, and it's not easy to write fairy tales, and it's probably because we just know them as stories that already exist. We don't have to rewrite them. We don't have to come up with new ones. Which is effectively what I'm trying to do with these two, is come up with a new story. But I actually could use an old story and just change some of the characters to include turnips. Something like that. Turn these lines off as well. Okay, let's get this one done. Oliver, it was on the Advia website, and they're free webinars. And hopefully they're going to be coming up with a course on fairy tales. And did you know the difference between a fairy tale and a folk tale? I learnt it last night. The difference is... What website? Advia. I'll type it in the chat, just so that I'm not saying it weirdly. Advia. They've got so many fascinating courses and webinars on there. You can watch things for free, or you can obviously subscribe and get access to proper courses. But the difference between a folk tale and a fairy tale is that folk tales are fairy tales, but fairy tales get written down and therefore become part of the culture that we tell in written form, whereas folk tales tend to be simply spoken. And the term fairy tale originated in France as conte de fées, but a better term for them would be wonder tales, and I absolutely love that term, wonder tales. And obviously fairy tales, there would always be an element of magic, usually involving fairies. Whereas folk tales, there's not necessarily magic involved, nor fairies. And it's really only recent history that we've turned fairy tales into something that was palatable for kids, because they used to be told with all their grimness as like lessons for children, you know, to scare kids, not to do stuff, which is effectively what folk tales were, the scary stories. And, you know, it's like we can create new ones as well. There is no... anybody can create a folk tale or a fairy tale. It's about how it's recorded. And will it survive history? You know, that's the only thing that will... that's the difference, really. If you write a new one, the test of time will determine whether or not it gets written into the lore of culture. I think it's time for some new ones, don't you? And they can't be Disney related or Marvel. I'm sorry. Hi Sean, good evening. Guten Abend. now that I've scribbled all that in, let's tidy it up. And I can get my creepy lines in it. Ooh, missed bits. Oh, you're in a meeting. Hope it's interesting. Well, it's probably not. That's why you're lurking. Hope you survive. So I'm gonna just tidy up all these edges so that I can then use another brush to bring in some bark looking features. Oliver's got the proper Grimm book, original translations, not the kid-friendly version. That's fantastic. Yeah, I've never read the originals. Actually, no, I have read the original Pinocchio, which is nothing like the Pinocchio that the Disney give us. And that's why I'm saying like Disney cannot be anywhere near actual folktales, because they strip away the imagination. It's almost like having them animated means that you don't have to think so much. Whereas like if you don't know what the whole sort of plot line is in visual form, then that's how your imagination gets like switched on. Because even if you just hear it and don't even have a picture book, it really sort of fires up the wonderful grey cells to think, to imagine it yourself, and what it all means. I'm probably talking absolute tripe, but it sounds good when I say it. Feels right. I take it the originals are in German for the Grimm stories, but it was pre-Grimm. I think it was Charles Perrault who like wrote Cinderella. For example, and that is like a tale as old as time. And there's also Aesop's Fables as well. They're like brilliant tales that could be, I mean, they're a fable. What is the difference between a fable and a fairy tale and a folk tale then? I have to see. This is why I need to do a course on it, because I have questions. I have questions. Well, now you're asking. So Oliver says that they're translated to English, but true to the originals. But that's where knowing languages, imagine there's no like translation. All translations are interpretations at the same time. Fables generally have a lesson in them, but so do the fairy tales. Like, they were lessons about life. For children, that's the fairy tales were lessons about life for children to make good choices. Kind of, but not in the same way, Oliver says. Oliver says, like the tortoise and the hare, the whole story is purposely written to be a life lesson. So perhaps the fables don't involve magic. They just involve like animals and people rather than magical elements. Whereas things like Snow White, Hansel and Gretel might have lessons in them, but they're not written to be lessons. They're primarily stories. I get what you're saying. Oh, hey Antoine, salut, bonsoir. Je vais bien, merci. Et toi, comment tu ça va? Antoine's just back from running. I went to watch my son play rugby for the first time, I think in about 6 months. It's been ages since I last got to watch him play rugby. And so I had to put on like my winter boots and my sort of ski pants because obviously I was going to be sat outside in the freezing cold. Fortunately not raining, but it's like 7, 8 o'clock at night. And I just had as I was getting dressed I was also putting on a load of old running kit because they were super warm layers. And it just hit me how I've got so much running kit. Fantastic for running on trails in winter weather. And I can't run. And it's just sometimes it hits me that running was a massive part of my life. And it's not there anymore. That made me feel a little bit sad. My kids are happy they get to, they get all the hand-me-downs of layers and layers of running kit. Or they can borrow it, at least. But, yeah. Oliver's saying, and yeah, folk tales tend to be stories that have been passed down through the ages. People know them because other people told them, but no one knows who originally wrote them. Yeah, that's right. Which is fascinating to think these tales that are so old, and we're like, who came up with this story? There's a reason, I don't know what it is, I don't know the exact reason, but it's like that feeling of why October is my favourite month of the year, or one of them, because it's like when we get to tell these folk tales legitimately, as if they're they come out of the woodworks and they become part of the stories that we're allowed to sort of focus on and be thrilled with or enthralled with. Folktales are for life, not just October. I agree. But for some reason, there's like an element of the magic of the folktales comes alive in October. With whether it's Halloween or Calan Gaeaf or Samhain. It's like we get to bring them out and enjoy them properly and dress up as them. So Oliver says, actually, some of them, it's unclear whether the person they're about is actually real. We tend to think of them as fiction, but there's evidence in some cases that the people may have actually existed, if not in the form of the if not in the form the tale describes. Well, this is where you're moving from mythology into folk tales. It's like there's a gradation of stories, mythology being part of that. Because it's spooky season, Halloween, Samhain, the thinning of the veil. Yeah. The thinning of the veil. It's also the ritual of celebrating death and everything that comes to an end, and the cycle of rebirth. The sort of things we don't normally talk about. Whereas I am that person who will bring up that topic. Oh, and you're a Sag rising as well, aren't you, Oliver? Or is it a Sag sun? I can't remember what you said. I'm sure you've got that spooky element in your nature as well. So it's probably, I'm probably best off using a nice ink pen, an ink brush to get the finer branches, because it's only so fine that I can get a pencil. But I'm not at that stage yet. Sad Rising. Okay. And Sag is obviously the winter solstice as well, as we go into Capricorn. So your main three are all in the dark part of the chart. They're all in the winter elements. Okay, so almost done. I often think cleaning up edges is a little bit like having to write out lines. A bit relentless. That all of it. Okay. Right, now I'm going to get my... I think it was my charcoal brush. What did I use? Hey Penny, how's it going? Is this the right brush? It could be. And I was doing, yeah, that must be the right brush. Barky looking things. I think I've changed the size of it there. So I'm just drawing out arc lines to give the impression bark. Send in the purple people. Yeah, what a way to confuse me, Penny. Is that the right pen? I'm now wondering whether I'm actually using the right pen. Brush even. Is it this one? Let's just have a quick... No, I think I'm okay. Can't go wrong with drawing back, really. There's... I... Yeah, so Rewilding is what I watched yesterday, and they have an upcoming webinar about folk horror. Yeah, we have. I'm watching, the next one I'm watching is actually gosh, it's literally just escaped my brain now. I think it's in 2 weeks' time. I'm really sort of like tempted to subscribe just so I can do some of their courses on mythology. And I know, because I mean, the mythology one would really help me with my astrology. Just how much learning can I squeeze into my brain at the moment? Autumn medicine. That probably is it. Yeah. The rich. Yeah. The turning of the wheel. Basically about how to do, I suppose, how to sort of understand the rituals for the turning of the wheel are sort of like a lost art, really. Yeah, we've mostly lost all seasonal living in favour of artificially maintaining the same levels of energy and productivity all year round. Very true, Oliver. Actively learning or unlearning what the message has been is takes some doing, I tell you. Oh, sorry, Penny, I missed that. I'm sure what you guys are talking about. Well, we started off talking about fairy tales and then Actually, it was these turnip ghouls, Penny. What could the story be for these turnip ghouls? So we were talking about folk tales and fairy tales and fables. I watched a webinar on fairy tales last night, and it was really fascinating. For me, it was anyway. Okay, so that one's got a bit more character to it. I really don't think I've used the same brush now when I look at it. It looks very different to the other one. Hey ho, I'll add some extra weight to it. Right, I'm just going to do some of this one. I do like how it sort of gives you these rough sort of textures. I plan to have some sort of like ivy growing around it as well. Where's that line come from? I think I was trying to draw a different outline. Oliver says, one of the books I'm reading this year is called Weird Walk. It's about walks to visit various standing stones, dolmens, etc. around the country, and in that they're talking about some of the folk horror inspired by the same landscapes. Sounds amazing. I've just ordered some books. One of them includes standing stones and pilgrim walking. So can't remember the name of it top of my head. But yeah, I love that there are all over the country, and in any country really, there's always evidence of humans walking for some sort of pilgrimage, or there's a story that would probably go with it. Penny loves me a good weird walk. We've got lots of doors in Denbigh, where I live, and it's a thing. They actually have it as a walk that you can go and look for all the different doors. It's lovely. There's so many old buildings here. Can even get it on a calendar or a tea towel. Denbigh's doors. Penny does like wandering around in nature. I pretend it's magical. It may or may not be, but in my head it is. Another thing that came up in the talk last night was about animism, which it's things like if you are on a beach and you want to take rocks or stones, pebbles off the beach to add to your pebble collection, you should ask the pebble first if it wants to be removed. Which is something I've started doing. I mean, not at the beach, but I've told Tom, if you're going to cut down some of those flowers or some of those those trees or branches or whatever he's doing in the garden, just remember to ask permission. And that's effectively invoking, or it's recognizing the magic in nature and recognizing that just because we talk and think and do things in the way we do as humans, nature has its own version of that, and animism is the acceptance of a consciousness in any type of earthly element. Yeah, it does make sense, Penny. Oliver says, always ask for permission before cutting a hawthorn or blackthorn. Don't get on the wrong side of the fae. Yep. All this talk is making me sort of wish I could go back to Glastonbury and go and mix with the folks down there who have real sense of animism and magic in nature, and go and get me some white spring water, red spring water. Yeah, I've never been to Glastonbury Festival either, Oliver. Just been to Glastonbury itself. The well springs, because obviously Glastonbury Festival happens outside of Glastonbury, whereas in Glastonbury itself there's all sorts of amazing old buildings and wonderful well springs, which I think you might find fascinating. I'm not much of a festival goer. Yeah, the town. Penny, I'm not much of a people person. Yeah, same. I'm not. So Jane says I'm not a crowd person. There's only so many bums and crotches you can look at without getting bored. Yeah, you won that, Jane. Then there's young hooligans. Are you talking about toddlers, Penny? Well, you know, when last time I went to Glastonbury, there weren't any crowds because I went in mid-December, and so there's just not the horde of people at all. It was very quiet. So there's also the times, yeah, picking your times where you go somewhere. Oh, right, in a festival, Penny. I don't go to festivals. I think the last festival I ever went to was when I was probably a teenager. And it was a reggae festival in France. So it was actually pretty chill, I have to say. Everyone was just dancing. Right, okay. I've managed to give these trees a little bit more of something. Still, I'm so sure it's definitely not the same brush that I used on the other side. And I don't know how I've managed to make that, how I got that original brush going. But I need to do the same lighting effect, like a little bit lit up with some evening sky. And then I'll also add a little bit of moonshine to it. Same on both sides. And then, well, at least I got the fence line in. I got some higgledy-piggledy roadside stones. Right, let's have a look where we are so far. Goes there. I don't think that one's so heavy. Bring these ones back up. Bring these back up. Oh, I've got some still work to do. Work to do still. English, not English. Getting there. It does look almost like they've broken out of some sort of cemetery though, which I'm... Oh, I could do a cemetery thing. Have like some gravestones beyond the fence line. Neat. Okay. Right, I'm gonna sign off now, guys, and I'm probably still gonna work on it, but quietly. Jane agrees. Yes, escape from the graveyard. Right, I'm going to take a quick screenshot of these are the Turnip hooligans escaping from this graveyard. Watch your eyes, there's going to be a quick flash. Okie doke. Thanks so much, guys. I hope to see you again soon. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Probably catch you in another stream. Obviously got Penny and Sean tomorrow, about midday. Yay! Thank you for using my... I keep forgetting about that. I need to get ready for the others ready. My emote. Okay, Brain, get back online. Penny and Sean are streaming tomorrow about midday UK time. Jane's streaming every day on her epic mission. And Uma is back on Friday. Thank you to Penny, Uma, Oliver, Sean, Antoine, and Arif, who turned up for the first time, I think. Thank you for your company and the chat. Really enjoyed this chat. I can always talk about weird and wonderful magic, folktale stuff. Jane's going to be streaming in the afternoon, UK afternoon. She is putting in the work, Penny, putting us all to shame. Or putting me to shame. Et oui, donc, Antoine, merci à toi. Encore une fois. And have a great sleep tonight. Hope you have some interesting dreams. Okie dokie. I have no idea if there's anyone to raid, so otherwise I'll just sign off. Okie dokie. Where's my OBS? Thanks, guys. Bye. Bye bye bye. Bye bye. Oh, Fiend is live and Adobe. You know what? Let's go raid Fiend. Sorry. Yep. Let's do a raid on Fiend. I've never done Fiend before. I've never raided Fiend before. So FI3. There he is. Okay, there you go. Go and enjoy some Fiend. He's very folklory, folktale-ish. Okie dokie. Bye bye. Bye bye bye. Bye. Bye.